Hello and welcome to this Tuts Plus series Tumblr Theming 101. In this video we're going to do a quick review of our markup and our CSS so we can combine the two and start adding options to our theme. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to resolve a layout issue that I've noticed since the last video was recorded. To give you an example of this issue, what I'm going to do is just going to resize my browser window so we can see the final layout. And as you can see, everything seems to be okay. However, if we start measuring things with Firebug, we can show you, or I can show you the issue. So again, just to give ourselves a quick reminder, we are stating that the aside element should have a width of 220 pixels and the main element should have a width of 500 pixels. So if we use Firebug and we click on the aside element, as you can see, it has a width of 220 pixels, and then there is a padding on the right hand side of 40 pixels. So everything's okay with the aside element. Now if we go to the main element, we have our padding of 40 pixels on the left hand side, which is correct. However, our main element width is 460 pixels. So if we go to the style, as you can see here, we've set the width for 540. So if we take this 40 pixels away from the 540, because we're using box sizing, border box, the width should actually be 500. Now, the answer is already on the screen, but just to clarify it, in our second media query, or our last media query, we've set the width and we've got the padding, so everything seems fine there. However, if we go back to the previous media query, as you can see, we've got a max width of 500. Now, if we take away 40 pixels for the padding we've set off 500, we are left with 460 pixels. So that's where this issue is coming from. So the way to rectify that is to go into the last media query where we are adding styles for the main element and put in max width 540 pixels. Now you could use max width 100%, however I think that kind of gives a false indication. If I see something with a max width of 100%, I'm going to presume that it will be 100% of the window or its parent, which in either case would be incorrect. So let's add that max width to the main element and then let's save it and refresh the browser. Okay, so as you can see now, Firebug's reporting that that element is now 500 pixels wide with 40 pixels padding on the left hand side. Or to clarify, there is 500 pixels worth of free space inside this element and there is 40 pixels padding. And again, as you can see, the total width is 540. So that solved that issue. However, by doing this, we've also created another issue, and this can be seen by resizing the browser window. Now you see, we have an issue where the main element now sits underneath the aside element, which obviously isn't the desired effect. Now, there are a couple of ways to solve this, and there is a reason for this. This is to do with the way that this value here is detected in our browser. Now, I'm not 100% sure on the complete summary of this, but my understanding is that browsers are choosy or inconsistent when they actually measure the width that is used here. So this min width here, 880 pixels, should really apply to the body element, this one here. Again, if we just have a look at the layout, it's 873. Now, some browsers will include the scroll bars in that width and some browsers won't. So the easiest fix for this is to try and break away from this coupling between this min width and this max width here. Ideally, you want the value set here to be lower than this value set here. And the quickest way to do that is to remove this padding declaration, like so, and then just go up and double check. So we're already setting 20 pixels and all we were doing is we were bumping it to 40 pixels. Now, because we've now gone back to the previous value of 0 pixels, 20 pixels for padding, we also need to take off the extra 40 we added here, like so. And then if we click save and then refresh our browser, as you can see now, the main element sits correctly against the aside element. And again, I'm just going to keep on resizing the browser window to make sure the layout responds correctly. As you can see, we'll have the 20 pixels padding, and then obviously because we've used margin 0 pixel auto, the margin is centered, the element is centered, and then we have this little gap of free space. So basically what we're trying to say here is that once there is 20 pixels plus of white space on the left hand side of the wrapper, we'll then invoke this larger layout. So that's what we're going to do here. So that's taken care of then layout issues. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just do a quick cleanup, and I'm going to add some notes. So I'm going to say 2 columns. Again, this is just for anybody who then comes to the theme afterwards, and that should be enough. I'm just going to put one more note actually here. Like so. And then that'll change it to 2 columns there. Like so. And then what I would suggest you do is just go through your CSS and make any cleanup. So what I would do, I'd move any styles here that I feel are going to remain throughout the media queries back up to the top like we've done with previous videos. However, I'm pretty happy that the CSS is readable, it's in an order I want it to be, so I'm just going to go up and clean this all up. Now, I have a plugin for this called Css Comb. I'll put a link to it in the description, but basically this will sort my properties into an order of my own choosing, which is quite a nice little feature. And I just do Control Shift and C. Now what that has done, and I'll try and give you a quick demonstration somewhere. Here, this should be a good one. This has put my CSS properties into an order just so I can quickly go through and then scan them a little bit easier. So you can see there I've put display line underneath, and then if I use CSS Comb and go back, it's moved display line. So the way that I like to read my CSS is I like to have anything that's display or float related at the very top, and then we work our way down until we move to stuff like text, etc. So position, float, display inline will be at the top, then followed by margin and padding stuff, then widths, and then stuff like font sizes, coloring, etc., etc. So that's me. I'm happy with the CSS. So I'm going to save that. Now, next thing to do again is just to quickly go through your markup and add in little bits or clean up little bits. Now, the one little tip I'd like to give here is please do not include any comments in your actual HTML markup. When I say that, I actually mean inside any of your Tumblr blocks. Now, there is a reason for this, and I'll give you a quick demonstration. I think I've mentioned it in a previous video. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. So if you include comments inside your Tumblr blocks like this, and then take that, put it inside here, update and save, remember? Okay. Now let's view the source of this page. Now remember, we've only included this one post comment here. However, you can see it here, and then you can see it here, and then you can see it here. For every single post I have, this comment is then returned the same way that the element is returned. So again, please don't use or don't add comments in because you'll increase the size of your page. Now obviously this is a small increase and it's not going to affect much, but if you put a comment for every little thing you add in, your page size is going to increase. So again, just remove them out. Sadly, Tumblr doesn't have a comment variable. There may be other theme platforms out there or other CMSs that allow you to add comments that are removed by the server, but sadly Tumblr is not one of them. So that is the HTML ready, and that is the CSS ready. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy and paste this CSS from here. So I'm going to take it all like so, and then I'm going to put it here under theme CSS. Now you may be trying to work out, why am I putting my CSS in line? Now we want to add some options to our theme, and we do this using custom variables. Now custom variables are very similar to the variables we've been using throughout this theme. However, they are defined by me, so I'm allowed to write them. They are named and they are picked by myself. However, custom variables can only work on this HTML page. They don't work in linked files, so we have to include our CSS in line. Now, a little tip, there are a couple of ways of going about doing this. Some authors I've seen will have a base CSS, which includes all of the CSS related to the theme that isn't customizable. So for instance, padding, list style, etc., would go into a linked CSS style sheet. And then they would include in line just the stuff that's customizable. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is just by pasting all of your CSS. I don't really see a benefit or a negative to either of these approaches. The only benefit I can see really to using the approach of splitting your CSS into customizable and non-customizable is you could keep the CSS somewhere that you could update it. However, going back to what I've said previously, Tumblr requires that you upload any assets for a theme to its CDN. And once that file's on the CDN, you can't edit it. So I think it's more of a preference kind of thing. I'm just going to include it all in line. However, if you feel better splitting it up into stuff that's customizable and stuff that isn't, feel free. So I'm going to take all of this code now. Sorry, I'm going to remove the reference to our development CSS, like so, and then click save. And then I'm going to take all of this code, I'm going to put it into here, and then click update preview. And then click save. Now, as it stands, this is our theme complete. The only thing that's missing are our theme options and a couple of extras which I will include in a later video. So for this video, we are now done. Again, I'd like to thank you for joining me for this one, and I hope you'll join me in the next, where we'll actually go in and start adding some customization options to our theme.